Greetings and namaste YouTube. I'm Eve Lowry with The Baby's Booty. Today's episode, we're going to discuss how to personalize a stuffed animal. Now this one I found at Walmart. It's an owl and we're going to personalize it for a client. So please stay tuned and we'll get started. Now, keep in mind, whenever there's an embroidery project that has to be done, usually here at The Baby's Booty, I hand make everything. But in this instance, I had a special request for a stuffed owl. Now, I do have the capability to sew a teddy bear. I do have patterns where I can make my own teddy bears. However, this particular customer is requesting an owl. Now, I don't have a pattern for an owl. And as an embroiderer, there are options out there for us, such as embroidery blanks. Now, I can contact a company that provides different things. They have bibs, they have jackets, they have t-shirts, they have onesies, they have different items that I can order and embroider on for my customers. Now, I did find a stuffed owl out on the internet at a blank company. However, the color that we wanted was sold out. So not to be outdone, I decided to take a trip to Walmart and see what I could find. I mean, it's Valentine's Day time frame and there were tons of stuffed animals available at Walmart. I hadn't seen an owl, but I thought, why not? Let's give it a shot and see if we can find one. And sure enough, I came across this cutie. Now, I thought this was a special candidate because it doesn't have anything on it that says Valentine's Day. So we definitely can use this little girl. She has a flower, which is fine. That won't take away from the quality of what we're going to use it for a little baby girl. So let me show you how we begin the process of getting a name embroidered right here on the tummy for the baby to enjoy for many years to come. Okay, so now one of the first things that we want to do with the stuffed animal like this, I can't embroider directly on it the way that it is, because if I put it in my machine, it's going to embroider it together. Number one, that's not what we want. Also, in order for me to embroider beautifully, it has to be flat, completely flat with nothing behind it, such as one layer of a blanket or the top layer of the bibs that I make. So what we're going to have to do is find out where she's stitched together so that we can take her apart. Now, usually I find a seam such as this one running along the back of the stuffed animal. There's also one right in this area of the bottom of it. As a matter of fact, I see a little bit of stuffing here, so there's quite possibly a seam here, and I'll check that when we put it back together to make sure there's no stuffing that's coming out of it at that time before we give it to the baby. But if you look a little closer to the stuffed animal, I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a white thread that's visible, slightly visible at the back of the stuffed animal. Now, all stuffed animals have a closure where they have that final seam that's going to sew or shut. So that's what that white thread is. So we need to snip that to open up the stuffed animal. So let's go ahead and see if we can't get in there carefully. Now, normally I would use a seam ripper, but my seam ripper has eluded me at the moment. Let's go in with the tip of the scissors. There we go. And we're going to cut it right there and snip it. So see, look at how easily now it is just coming apart, because that's where it was sewn together. So now that we have it apart, I'm going to take it loose just a good bit more down the back. And some of the stuffing is going to, you know, come out of it, which is quite normal because you're taking it apart. and it goes down here to the bottom. So I'm gonna have to open this up just a little bit more. So we're gonna take it on up a little bit higher and see how high we can go with this. I think that's pretty much where that's gonna stop. So what I'm gonna have to do, yeah, that's where that stops. So I'm gonna have to actually snip down into this and cut into it a little bit more, because I need a lot of space in order to embroider on the front of it, which is why embroidery blanks are so important, because the embroidery blanks are made for us to have plenty of room to embroider on without having to go into the objects anymore. And so let's open her up. Let's see, that might be enough space. And now what we want to do is pull all this stuffing out and set it to the side. You can put it in a bag so that you know where it is and can get back to it quite easily. But we're going to pull all of this stuffing out of the center of it. I don't want to de-stuff the entire thing because I'm not doing anything with the head and I'm not doing anything with the feet. But I do need clear space to get to the tummy. So we want to take all of the stuffing out of the center. And I'm just going to set it to the side. I don't have a bag handy to put that in. Alrighty, it looks quite clear, and it turns out there's a seam going down through here, so I can snip this open a lot farther than what I thought I could. And then I'll just put it on the sewing machine and stitch it up as far as I possibly can go on the sewing machine, and then ladder stitch it closed. But for the time being, we're gonna go ahead and take this all the way to the bottom of this particular seam. And like I said, this is much easier if you have a seam ripper, but for the time being I'm just using scissors. Okay, let's see. Alrighty, so we have it opened up and we have a clear visual into the back side of the tummy, so that we can lay the front part of this tummy flat. Now our next step is making sure we have a good clear design to put on the tummy that's going to fit right in this area. So what I generally would do is measure the area to make sure that I have enough space for the design, which I already knew because I'm limited to 4x4 area. I already know that the 4x4 area is going to fit. I have a grid that I use for my embroidery design, and I can just easily lay it right here and can tell it's more than adequate for me to put the embroidery design here, because I don't even think that it's anywhere near 4x4. But just to be 100% sure, you want to measure this to make sure that your design is going to fit. Once you have that figured out, then the next step is to move it to the machine. Now, before we put the owl on the embroidery machine, I wanted to take a moment to point out some particular facts for those who are following along in anticipation of embroidering on their own stuffed animal. Now, I did open it up as far as I possibly could, as far as cutting up the seam in the back. I also use cutaway stabilizer. It's going to be on the inside of the stuffed animal, so no one will see it. So tearaway is not a good idea with this particular project. And in hooping it, I didn't hoop it. I floated it on top of the hoop and pinned. I pinned till I couldn't pin anymore. I tried to pin every inch, every section, because number one, this is a soft minky type fabric. Chenille type pattern to it with the ridges, and I wanted to make sure that this thing stays secure on the embroidery machine. This is not going to be a project that you will put on the machine and walk away, go have coffee, take a break, and then come back and everything's done. No, ma'am, you're going to have to babysit this particular project, mainly because of all of the bulk involved with it. Now, I did wind up taking some extra stuffing out of the head, not all of it, but enough to give me some leeway on the machine, because I have the smaller the Brother PE. This one is the SE400. Actually, I have the PE 500 over there, but this is the SE400. So there's not much room around the sewing head, so I needed to make sure that I had enough space. Another thing that I did was I hooped it sideways. This is the bottom of the hoop. Normally, when we embroider right side up. So normally the head would have been up here and the feet down here, but that still would have been too much bulk on the animal and everything for me anyways. And I wanted this not to hang off the back of the machine. I wanted it to, the head of it to rest on the embroidery arm, because it will allow it to move with it and not give it any resistance on the back of the machine. Now that's just me. You don't have to do that, because 4x4, of course, you have all kind of, you can up, down, backwards. I could have had the head down here. It's entirely up to you, but that's the choice that I made, because I've had a lot of success with lightweight, very lightweight things, just the bulk of my embroidery project resting on this side of the machine. So that's why I did that, if in case you're wondering. And then I turned my embroidery pattern this way 90 degrees so that it will line up the way it's supposed to be, because what we're going to put right here on its tummy is a heart and then a name across the middle of the heart. So that's pretty much what I've done. Let me go ahead and put this on the machine. I've already loaded the design, and we'll go ahead and get started with the embroidery. Alrighty, our owl is hooped. The next step I need to do is add the water soluble topping stabilizer to go on the top, because we have a pile fabric. We want to make sure that we have the water soluble stabilizer. So I'm going to slide this in here under the embroidery head and stretch that out. Now, I didn't pin that in place. I'm just setting this in place. Because I'm going to be babysitting it, I'll be able to hold it out of the way. Alrighty. Let's get started. Now what I'm going to do is, the embroidery machine has put down the stabilizing stitches for the heart on this embroidery pattern. So what I'm going to do, just because I'm very particular, I want to make sure everything is just so, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to double check the stuffed animal, make sure that all of these sides are out of the way, that I did the right thing, everything is out from up under it. Everything looks good on the back side. I just want to double check and be sure that everything is where it needs to be. That's just how I am. It's nothing more frustrating than to think that everything is hooped like it's supposed to be. Something could have shifted while I was putting it on the machine, and then you take it off after everything is stitched and you realize, oh my God, I just stitched a piece of it to the back of the embroidery. There's nothing more frustrating than that, and it would mean hours of sitting here with the seam ripper trying to get that unstitched, and it would be kind of difficult because of the way this particular design is laid out. To do that, I would probably have to unstitch everything. So I'm just going to take a couple of seconds to take this off of the machine, give it a look over, make sure everything looks good. Okay, so You see the stabilizing, the foundation stitches are there. The pins are still in place. The back looks great. The pins are out of the way. I'll probably go ahead and move this pin out of the way. I'm looking at the inside of it over here, so none of the edges were embroidered in. On the bottom, same thing. Everything is up out of the way. Over here, everything's up out of the way. And then we look at the neck. Everything looks great. So what I'm going to do is go ahead, put this back on the machine after I take this top pin out, and let her finish stitching. Done with the embroidery. Let's pull it off. And just how precious is that? So what we want to do is we want to take off the rest of the water soluble stabilizer. We want to make sure we take out all of the pins, especially since this goes to an infant. We want to check for pins, make sure there are no more pins left. Another quick way to determine to make sure all of the pins are gone, we'll check the back. I don't see any more pins sticking through in the back. So now we're going to take it off the hoop. And we're going to trim the cutaway stabilizer, making sure we don't cut any part of the teddy bear. Now that that's done, I'm going to push it back to the inside. Take a look at that on the front. That turned out really cute. So the next step is I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, and because I'm not wanting to turn this back inside out, I'm going to have to do some fancy finagling, and I'm going to stitch this back up on the machine as much as I can without it being too bulky in the machine. So I'm probably going to stitch till about here from the neck down, and then if I can, I'm going to turn this inside out like so, as far up as I can without tearing anything, and stitch up as far as I can this way to leave an opening that's just big enough for me to put all of the stuffing back inside. So I'm going to go do that at the machine, and then I'll be right back here so that we can start the stuffing process. I'm back from the sewing machine, and I was able to get it stitched back up pretty good. I have just this roughly 2.5 to 3 inch hole to work with to get all of the stuffing back inside of this owl. So let's go ahead and get it stuffed. Now, one of the things I wanted to do to this particular gets older, she'll play with it more. I wanted to add a little chime to the inside of it, just to give this one a little extra kick, something different that they wouldn't find in the store other than the embroidery on the front. So we're going to stuff this little chime down in the middle of the fluff, kind of close to the embroidery in the front, but still in the fluff so that you can't really feel the chime on the inside. And now this owl has a chime. So that's something else that you can do in addition to adding the embroidery to the stuffed animal. Let's finish stuffing. Now that we know that the stuffing is, all of the stuffing is back in, our chime is inside. So now we have this little section left to stitch closed. Now, stitching a stuffed animal closed is not terribly difficult. It just takes a little bit of time and patience, and you can get it. Now, when we started the process, there was a pretty thick white cord that was holding the back seam shut. So, using just a plain thread to get this stitched closed is going to be a bit of a challenge. And the reason for that is because this seam in any article of clothing or anything that you make, the seam is the weakest part of the actual product. So you want to reinforce your seams as best as you can. So in this instance with the stuffed animal, you have a bunch of stuffing pressing against this seam, and then you have a kid that's going to be squeezing and loving on it, throwing it around, tossing it, and things of that nature. So you want to make sure that that seam, especially for a kid, you want to make sure that this seam is good and secure. So what I did was, I didn't have any embroidery floss. That's actually what I would suggest to use if you're able to go and get the skeins of embroidery floss, because you can take apart each strand if you wanted to for not in crochet, but for cross stitch or hand embroidery. Well, in this instance, you would leave a lot of those threads together. I would dare say 5 or 6 of those strands, leave it together as one strand, thread your needle with that. I didn't have any embroidery floss. So what I'm using is regular thread. I pulled out a long piece, doubled it, then thread that through the needle, doubled it. As you can see, this is 2 strands here, and then once you get it at the halfway point, you take it down, you tie a knot in the end, and so you have basically 4 strands of regular thread that I'm going to be stitching this clothes with. I really personally would love to have a thicker thread, but I don't have that, unfortunately, at this time. So I'm going to make the best with what I have, and we're going to go ahead and stitch this little booger clothes. So we're going to make sure everything is stuffed, and which I did. I went back and checked and double checked. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pinch this closed, and because it already was stitched closed at one point, the opening already kind of, the fabric bends in anyway, and that's what we want. We don't want raw seams sticking up to sew it together. So you want it to kind of bend in. Push the stuffing down some out of your way and give it a pinch. Okay, once you give it a pinch, you see the rounded fabric there, and you just take your needle real close just past the opening here, and you want to go in and start your chain. So what I'm going to do is actually start on the outside and push it through. Now this is a big needle, and I probably should have got a smaller one, but and I'm going to secure it by going in through the thread, through that double thread, and locking that in place. That's just me. That's how I do it. If you're good at hand stitching, you can do it this way. If you have your own method, use your own method, because it's basically a ladder stitch that we're going to use. If you're not really familiar with the ladder stitch, look up videos on YouTube. I promise they're out there. Pretty easy to follow. Better than me doing it here, because I don't do it that often. I don't have a video for it, but if it does come in handy whenever you need it. So what I'm basically going to do is go in on one fold of fabric on that opposite side, come up through the middle of the seam, and then do the same on the opposite side. Go through through the fold and up out the middle. And I'm just going to repeat that same process, basic ladder, my version of ladder, all the way up the seam so that we can get this thing stitched closed. And each time I'm pulling that thread up the middle, okay? And once you get up to where you've pinched the fabric, because I can't pinch the whole seam closed, then you want to try and give it a little slack, reposition your hand and pull again. And my thread bunched up on me, so I'm trying to fix that problem. Oh, that's what bunched up on me. Okay. And now we want to reposition our hands. My hand is going to cramp up pretty bad on me, so hopefully I won't have to let go of it while I'm on camera with you guys. Make sure that your seam is centered because I pinched it crooked. Grab it again and keep going till you get all the way up that seam. Okay, and reposition. Okay, reposition. And if I let go, you can see that it's seaming up pretty nicely. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm pulling this out the way so I can make sure that doesn't get caught up in it, and pinch it and finish off this seam. You want to check and make sure all the way to the very top that there are no holes, that you stitched up every bit of it, because what's going to happen if you've missed any part of it and the hole is still there, once it goes in the wash, it's going to tell on you. So to finish it off, I'm going to make a loop, go in as if I was sewing it, and go in one time and pull it a little bit, and I'm going to go in again for the second time, and that makes a nice secure knot. And then we pull it shut. And that is how you seam it back closed. Now, of course, yours will probably look better than mine, because as I said, I don't do this very often. But I've done it enough to where at least I know that this bear is now secure and we shouldn't have any issues. And that is how you embroider on a stuffed animal that's already stuffed. And as a matter of fact, we even added a chime in it to make it even more special. So we have the heart, we have her name on the front. We've stuffed it back. You may want to, try and smush it and get the fabric, the feel back in where it needs to be, stuff and move it around. But for the most part, that's how you do a stuffed animal and embroider on one that's already existing. You don't have to buy a blank, not necessarily. As long as you can get that seam open nice and clean, lay it flat, lay it open, get it pinned down pretty good. You have your design to fit the area where you want it to be in, you're good. You just take your time. It takes patience, especially pinning it to the hoop. If you have a machine like mine where you're limited in space, it's going to take time. Please give it some patience. And, if you have arthritis issues like I do, it's going to take even more, and a little pain reliever as well. But it's well worth it in the end, because this actually turned out really, really cute. So I'm going to trim off these jump stitches, take a picture of our beautiful little owl, and that will be it for today. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in with me again today for another quick tutorial. Well, this one wasn't quick. Another tutorial on a project that you can do with your embroidery machine to benefit someone else, whether it be a gift or for sale. And if you really enjoyed this video, if it proved helpful for you, please take a moment, hit the like button. I really appreciate it. That lets me know that the videos that I'm doing are beneficial for you. That will also allow you a quick reference back to this video if you need a refresher. Also, click subscribe. If you subscribe, I do post videos quite frequently. I'll also answer any questions that you may have. I try and get videos out based on things that people are asking for. I have a couple of other videos in the works that are due to come out. This one was the next step. And I will definitely, if you subscribe, it'll send you an alert and let you know that a new video is up. So again, embroidery is awesome. Embroidery is fun. For those who choose to indulge in the world of embroidery, happy embroidering. Until the next time, I'm Eve Lowry with The Baby's Booty. Have a great day.